Hi, welcome to Life on the Rock. Tonight our guest is Sister Miriam James. She is from SOLT, Society of Our Lady of the Trinity. She is the novice directress for their community in Washington State, Seattle. And she's going to share with us tonight her conversion story, a little bit about a religious life, and some other talks and presentations she makes to young people. So a lot of very pertinent topics and issues for our time and age in which we live. So I'm excited about this show tonight. Good to see you, Doug.
You too, Father. Good to be here.
World Youth Day is coming up fast.
Very soon.
Yeah.
I think back to the last one. I didn't go to Australia with you all.
Right. You keep reminding us of that.
Well, that was only because I just started with the show.
We brought you the T-shirt.
You did. You brought me a T-shirt back, you know. That should have said they went to World Youth Day. Yeah. My co-host went to World Youth Day, and all I got was a T-shirt. But this year I get to go with you all, which is exciting. But you think back to that, and that was, I mean, the fact that a couple of years has gone by already.
Yeah. So we want to encourage everybody to really consider going if you can, certainly to pray for the event. And we're going to try to bring you the best coverage we can. We have stuff on our website, EWTN's website, World Youth Day Central. You can look that up. Also, Madrid 11's the official site. Great info there. Great information about how to prepare spiritually, practically, and what to expect. So just encourage all young people out there and to get excited for this.
Well, yeah, and to pay attention too. I mean, the Holy Father is doing an awful lot. I mean, you know, you're regularly finding bits and pieces of things that he's talking about. He has been and is still at various addresses encouraging young people to prepare, to pay attention, to see what this is all about, to get themselves in the right spirit and frame of work. Because this is pilgrimage. It's pilgrimage. It's not a vacation. It is pilgrimage to deepen the faith. And I mean, Spain, what a place to go. The history of the Catholic faith there is incredible.
It is. Great contributions with spirituality, music, just a great history there. Now we have a video we'd like to show you in this opening segment about Father Michael Scanlon. He's stepping down as Chancellor of Franciscan University in Steubenville, and it's just really to honor him. He's done obviously a tremendous work there, a great service to the church. He really was part of the renewal at that school. I remember him saying how the household system was so key, you know, that he brought in there, I believed, or maybe existed before him, but really revitalized it with his charisma and strength. And of course the charismatic renewal was so prominent there. Also, I'd like just to say, you know, his show on EWTN, Franciscan University Presents, or I think it's called that. Whenever I've seen it, though, it's been tremendous. You know, they have great teachers there. Yeah, Franciscan University Presents with Scott Hahn, Regis Martin, and others, Father Mark Mervalli. And Father Scanlon is just a tremendous preacher in his own right. He's really one of my favorite preachers. And so just a salute to Father Mike and what he has done there. Yeah. And affected so many young people. We also know the summer conferences there have educated so many and revitalized the faith of so many. So we're gonna go out with this video to a break and come back with Sister Miriam James. So we hope you enjoy this video.
Father Mike, you were known as Father Theophane when I first met you. I was a student in your first honors class.
Well, we're just like good old friends, you know. I'll cook their dinner and he'll sit over there and he'll eat his dinner and we'll talk.
When I was first starting out as a host for the Steubenville conferences, Father Michael was really mentoring me my first couple summers.
I first met Father Michael in the summer of 1988. I finished my studies in Rome and he changed my life. He gave me a job.
In the 44 years that I've known Father Mike, he has been a friend, a mentor, a father, a brother to so many countless people.
When Father Michael came here, the naysayer said, oh yeah, Mike Scannon's going to Steubenville to go down with the ship. But I'm thinking in retrospect that he's really mounted a great flotilla, you know, fully armed to go out into the world, into the church, to proclaim the message and to be really a great source of evangelization.
Father Michael's contribution to Franciscan higher education has been incredible. Franciscan University has become internationally known as a place of very strong Orthodox Catholic teaching.
Everywhere I turn in the Archdiocese of Denver these days, I meet a graduate from Franciscan University. They're in our schools, they're in our chancery, each one of them bringing with them part of the gift that Father Scanlon gave to that university.
Well, I think Mike was given a very special gift, a very special charism to produce a very particular dimension of the renewal of the whole church.
In 1974, the College of Steubenville was on the verge of bankruptcy, and I really admire that when Father Mike was interviewed for the presidency, and they asked him, the trustees, what he would do, he said he didn't produce a clever slogan or a marketing strategy or even a financial plan, but he just told them, I want to make Jesus Christ really Lord of every aspect of the life of this campus.
Father Mike's vision was so radically different from the way the university had been running that people slowly gravitated to seeing there was something very special going on here. Everybody gave 120% effort, not just to see the school survive, but to see it thrive because they believed in the mission of the school.
He was very determined to provide the highest quality academics that he could. He put much effort into recruiting highly qualified faculty members, had very high standards for faculty and for his students.
He had a vision and he stuck with it. Even when other people were saying it's not going to work, it's not going to work. And it worked, and it continues to work today.
We now ask, O Lord, your blessing on our graduates. The Holy Spirit.
Father Michael Scanlon, I want to thank you on behalf of all the people of the Archdiocese of Denver for the wonderful contribution you've made to our local church. The Lord has blessed you with great enthusiasm, fidelity to your Franciscan vocation, and a love for the priesthood.
I think Father Mike is truly a spiritual father to thousands of men and women all over the world who have learned from his example, who have been touched by his ministry, who themselves are saying their own yes to the Holy Spirit, who themselves are setting their life and obeying the Lord and carrying out the mission he's given them to do. And I see it right here on the campus of Franciscan University. I see young men joining the TORs and young priests being ordained who are really ministering in a prophetic spirit, in a powerful pastoral ministry, in the same way that Father Mike is, through the same Holy Spirit.
Well, Father Mike, you have been a superb host of the EWTN show, Franciscan University Presents, which we have done together for something like 200 years. And you are the only man I know who has succeeded in getting Scott Hahn and myself to shut up from time to time so that you can make your own wonderful points about faith.
Well, Father Mike, you and I, we've been through a lot of things together. You have always been, to me, a perfect model of a true Catholic priest and religious friar. God bless.
Hi, welcome to Life on the Rock. Tonight we have Sister Miriam James. Sister, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you, Father. Thanks for having me.
We first saw your story in the Register, and great conversion story, great work as a novice directress there for your community. Could you tell us about your community? Maybe we'll begin that. Where are you located and some of the work you all do?
Well, I belong to the Society of Our Lady of the Most Holy Trinity, SOLT, and we were founded in 1958 by Father James Flanagan, and he's still alive. So we're still in the very beginning stages of our community. We have houses in different parts of the world. We're a missionary community. So we have houses in the Philippines and in Thailand and in Europe and Central America and here in the United States. And I personally serve in Seattle, Washington, just north of downtown, where I've been 7 years now. So working with the novices and working with the children at St. Alphonsus Parish School. Yeah.
And part of the charism that I know attracted you to your community is sometimes communities will form like with a men's group and then later women, or I just learned the Dominicans, the cloistered Dominicans started first and then the men.
Really?
They're very proud of that. I talked to some nuns that were saying that. But you all started all three, right, from the beginning?
Yes, we did.
Talk about that family spirit there.
Well, that's our charisma's family teams, our ecclesial teams. So we always serve with our priests and our laity. So for example, at our missions, our priests go first or we go with them to serve. And so we don't go into a parish where our priests aren't there. We always serve with our own priest. And so we have Mass with them and Holy Hour, and depending upon our schedule, we'll have dinner with them. And so it's a very familial atmosphere. And that's what I really liked about the community and how that it represents the Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, how all the vocations live together as one family, as God lives as a family, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And so it's very apropos to the times today when relationships are so broken, that God would call a charism into the church that's one of healing and one of family and relationship.
Right. And what is the lay branch called? Does that have a particular name? Or?
It's not. It's not a third order. We're full members of our community. So we have priests, sisters, and laity.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about your work there at St. Alphonsus, Directress of Novices. What does that mean?
That means that technically I'm the novice servant, so I serve the novices there, and women that are just entering novitiate. They've just received a habit and a veil, and they come. We have a 2-year novitiate in our community, so our apostolic year is first. So the women come there to Seattle, or we also have another mission in Kansas City. And they spend their first year of novitiate there learning about the balance between work and prayer. I mean, they're wearing a habit. They're learning more deeply about their relationship with Christ, about the engagement to Christ, about the betrothal that they're going to make to Him. And so it's a really great apostolate at St. Alphonsus, is that we work in the daycare with the children, and we work in just various capacities with the kids. And it's a very healing apostolate to work with children. It's very beautiful. And so the women spend the school year there. And then they go on to their 2nd year of novitiate, the canonical year. And that's in northern New Mexico. It's very beautiful out there, very quiet. So they go from craziness of the city of Seattle to the quiet of northern New Mexico.
And you're in the heart of Seattle, right?
We are just right north of downtown, in the Ballard neighborhood.
But you're also kind of tucked quietly away in a library there, is that right?
I am. I'm the fake librarian. No, this school needed a librarian this year, so we're a very small school, very humble school, and so and put the stickers on the library books and read stories to kids and whatnot. So, but I love books. I love to read, so it's been fun.
Right. And you also have a great blog. I was looking at your blog, and maybe it is too, maybe from your own background. You studied journalism in school, and tight, direct articles relevant to the topics, pictures, nice index.
Okay.
You got it all.
Somebody reads it well.
It is a good blog. Can you talk about how you approach that work? Because you do a lot of entries.
I like to write about things that I love sports and music. That's one of the ways that God speaks to me, is through sports and music. And so a lot of my entries will talk about either sports or music or current events. I also really interested in the media, and especially how the media really lies to us, how we're so full of all of these lies from the media, what it means to be beautiful, what it means to be masculine, what it means to be successful. And so when I go out and speak to young people, they know all the stereotypes. And so it's amazing when I find articles of maybe celebrities talking about areas that they reveal the illusion. They reveal that they're unhappy, or certain even secular music talks about love, talks about that love that we crave, the authentic love that we yearn for. And so I'll throw that out there. I think right now I have an AT&T commercial where the guy throws the phone out off the ski lift. I like that one. So just fun stuff too. So not all serious.
Yeah, and well, let's talk more about religious life. And so you work with this initial training of a young woman entering into religious life. Could you speak about the vowed life, maybe for a young person listening? How would you describe religious life to them?
Religious life is an eternal marriage with Jesus Christ. It's lived out in a community with other sisters, other women. Our life is very simple. We live in a community. We, have daily mass, daily holy hour, adoration, the Rosary, the office of the liturgy, the hours, and our life is one of searching for Christ and authentic discipleship. And that reality of espousal to Christ is our most important reality. And Mother Teresa would often say that, we're not social workers. Religious sisters are not social workers. And so sometimes the vocation is really boiled down to what can you do? What can you do for us? But that is not the essence of who we are. The essence of who we are is our gift that Jesus has called us, and that we've said yes to Him, and we've given ourselves body and soul to Him. And so there's a special grace that comes through a consecrated person that's present. And that's the essence of religious life. That's a beautiful reality of it.
That sounds great, sister. Have you always felt this way?
No, I didn't. I didn't know about religious life when I grew up. I grew up and I went to public school, and we went to church on Sunday, things like that. But I didn't grow up around sisters, or I didn't grow up reading like saint books, or I didn't, glow or anything as a child, unfortunately. So I had always, what I thought about religious life is what you see in the movies, which is pretty scary. So, you see nun movies and you're like, yeah, no, I don't think so, not so much, But it wasn't until what really attracted me to religious life was that relationship with Christ. And I really was like, I'll do anything to have that. And so it was there. I really had to come to religious life to learn what it means to be an authentic woman. And that's where I learned about
What do you think prompted you to want that, though? To say, there's something there that I want to strive for. I mean, we're all created for that relationship with God in some level of capacity, but be it through a marriage or through religious life and such. But was anything going on in your life, anything happen in your life that actually drove you to really desire that, if you were not necessarily that way when you were younger? What was that transformation?
For me, how I found that desire was through a lot of suffering and brokenness and sin. I tasted a lot of the bitterness of life. I loved sports, and when I was in high school, I signed a full scholarship to play volleyball at Division I university. And I used to play in a conference that had teams in the top 25 in the nation. And so there I was at this university, and
you were a starter when you were a sophomore?
Yes, I did start there, and
at University of
Nevada in Reno, Nevada. And so we played Long Beach State in Hawaii and Santa Barbara and Pacific, and I had a full ride, full scholarship. I had a really cute boy from the football team. I used to party all the time, did well in school. And I loved MTV, I loved Glamour magazine, I wanted to work at ESPN. I wanted to be a CEO of a company. I really wanted to be somebody. I wanted to, I wanted to succeed. And the avenues that I was looking at said, well, if you're young, if you have, if you're wealthy, if you're on this path, you're supposed to be happy. And what I realized was that I had everything the world says you should have to be happy. And when I was really honest with myself, I was really broken inside because I was living in a lot of sin and darkness. I was struggling with addiction. And there's many things that had happened to me in my life and many things I had done that I didn't tell anybody about. And there's a 12-step saying that says, we're only as sick as our secrets. And I had a lot of them. And so I knew I wanted something more from life, but I didn't know where to find it. And so through that brokenness and suffering, I had a very long conversion. And I realized what I was really looking for in all these broken situations was I was looking for Christ, truly. I was looking for authentic love, but I was just looking for it in all the ways that the media says, look here, you'll find it here, and you don't. You were hungering for something more. Did
somebody or something come along or come by that actually struck you and said, look this way? Something that said, look this way?
Visibly, yes, God sent a priest into my life. And
was it Father Mike Scanlon?
It wasn't, I know. It wasn't. It was one of our SOLT priests, Father Santan Pinto. And he came into my life, and that man just loved me. And I had never been really authentically loved except for my father by a man. And he loved me, like when you be reading the Gospel of John about Jesus and the woman caught in adultery and how he loves her. He loves her out of her sin. He affirms her saying, you're go and sin no more. You're too beautiful for a life of sin. And that's what Father did for me. He didn't shame me. He knew that I was living in mortal sin and darkness and struggling, but he just loved me. And that changed my life. I believe in the authentic power of healing love. It's happened in my life. And so true love is what transforms people. And so it was over several years of just being in friendship with him that it caused me to look deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And he never at any time said, hey, you might have a vocation to be a sister. Except I'd be like, I'd be out the door. But the man just loved me. He just loved me.
Concretely, what did that look like? I mean, you guys would...
He would email me often. Yeah. He was the only person that I knew in my life that I could answer the questions that were coming up in my heart and my soul. Because when I really was honest about the brokenness within, I had to say, well, okay, then what is life really about? Does my life really make a difference, honestly? I mean, what am I doing here? Like, what are we supposed to be doing? And he was the only person that I could talk to about those things because all of us, we're living the same, in a certain sense, the same kind of life, and nobody else had any answers. And It was through that I began going to Mass again on Sunday, and then sometimes I would pray, I'd read out the Bible, I'd pray the Rosary or something, but this intense longing broke out within me. Like I was just thirsting and yearning for something more. And he was a real friend to me. When he was in Reno, he would just stop by and visit, and we would have lunch or something, or he would email me because he was far away. But a friend that I could really count on, and who loved me for me, not for what I could do or for what I looked like or didn't look like, but just for me, and that's what I was really looking for.
You also had, your mother played a role too, right, in prayer. Could you describe that moment?
My mom, God bless her, I found out many years later that when I was a senior in college, on the surface my life looked very good, it looked very perfect, and I looked very successful, but my mom has like mom radar, you know how moms have mom radar, you know, so my mom had that in full effect, right? So she knew that my life was a mess morally, and so my parents had come down to visit me at college. And my mom and dad really saw firsthand the kind of life that I was living. They disliked the boyfriend that I was dating. My mom had financially cut me off. She told me if I married him, they were going to disown me from the family.
So she didn't think he was so cute.
No. And this is somebody else. And at that time, yeah, she wasn't so enthralled with that.
Go back to the
Not
other
him,
guy.
no. I don't know if she liked any guys that dated, but so.
But they threatened to cut you off.
Oh, yeah.
Financially.
Well, she did. It wasn't a threat. She did. Yeah, there was no money coming from home anymore. Like, that was it.
So this was true tough love.
Yeah.
Lived out.
It was. And
so they weren't concerned with being your friend. They were concerned with being your parents.
My mom was never concerned about being my friend.
God bless her.
From day one, she's always been my mother, yeah.
Parents, unite on this. Parents, unite. Enough of this friend.
Yeah.
Because a parent's love for a child is far greater than a friend's love will ever be. I mean, I would die for my kids in a heartbeat without thinking. And their friends would probably think about it. if not just leave.
Maybe, yeah.
But so they come down, they see this, it's all laid out before them, they cut you off, they say that's it. What's your reaction to that?
I was like, well, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. So I lived without money from them, and I still dated them.
Defiant and stubborn.
Oh yeah, I was going to do what I wanted to do. But my father, who has passed away, what I didn't know is that after they left, my dad had said to my mom, you know, I'm not gonna give her away to him in marriage. He's like, I'm not gonna do it. And my mom knew for my dad to say that, it was a huge, huge deal.
Wow.
And so my mom had already done everything she could do. And that night she got up and she went downstairs and she knelt before the statue of our Blessed Mother. And she gave me away to Our Lady that night. And she said, Mother, this is your daughter. I can't help her. I can't do anything for her. She's yours, and now I entrust her to you. And from that moment on, and I was living in mortal sin and darkness, my mom began to pray to become a nun. And here I am right now, sitting here as a nun. Yeah.
How soon after that moment did you become a nun?
That was, I would say...
Within a year or something?
Yeah, within a year, but I didn't find that out for about 5 years.
Oh, really?
Later, she never told me that, never. It was so, she wanted it to always be my decision, but she'd been praying for me the whole time.
Yeah. You know, I find too, and oftentimes in stories like these themes come back in your whole life, repeated. You know, maybe spiritual maternity for you now. I mean,
definitely.
You see that witnessed in your mom's life, and then you're living it out in a religious vocation. So, well, we're going to take a short little break, and we'll be back in a minute with Sister Miriam James, so don't go away. Welcome back to Life on the Rock. Tonight we have Sister Miriam James from the Society of Our Lady, the Most Holy Trinity. Holy Trinity, right?
Holy, yeah.
Right. Can you talk about holiness? I know we spoke about that earlier. That places a call on us. We all have that mission to become holy. We're attracted to the holiness of God. Can you talk about that in religious life?
I think it's interesting in religious life because a lot of times we come to religious life with kind of a preconceived idea of holiness. I know mine was, I had read a lot of saint books that were, they didn't have any faults and they had no opinions and were very quiet. And I mean, I tried that for a while. It didn't really work for me. I was like, well.
5 minutes?
The quiet or the opinion?
Both, neither worked for me. And so I really had to find out what does it really mean to be holy. And so that journey of finding out who I really am as a person. And I think for me, I mean, holiness obviously is becoming like Christ, but it's also allowing ourselves to become the people that God's created us to be. Not who we think we should be or who other people say we should be, but who God has destined us to be, to allow that person to come forth and to serve. And that's a way we can be Christ to other people. And so in my work with the novices, that's one thing I want to impart to them, that they don't have to be a carbon copy of another saint that they read about. And so we emulate the good things of the saints, but we also incorporate them into the particular path that God has for us. Because it's really an error to say, well, you know, I've had this stuff happen to me in my life, there's no way I could be a saint, you know, or, you know, you look at religious, oh, there's no way, the things I've done, there's no way I could be a nun or a priest or even a holy married person, there's no way I would struggle with this or that. That is untrue. God can heal anything, and he works through anything, and he wants us as we are, not some facade or some kind of image of what we think we should be.
And a great part of your story that I think resonates in the culture so much today is that you had to be healed, and you had a real human formation to go through. You speak of a brokenness you had. So it's not just some kind of discontinuity to this life of grace, but that grace was operating in your humanity to heal and to recover. Could you talk about that work? What was key to that kind of healing for you?
Well, I had to really get honest with myself, and I had to finally look at the things in my life that had happened to me or things that I had done that I didn't want to look at anymore. And I really believe in, I mean, obviously the healing aspect of the sacraments of confession and the Eucharist, that's indispensable. Jesus is the divine physician. But also going out and finding healing, or going to counseling, or talking with people that I can trust, reading books, going on retreats. One thing I really felt that just saved my life and saved my vocation is John Paul II's work on theology of the body. That just rocked my world, and it still does to this day. I'll never be finished studying that. And so learning about who I'm really called to be, not this kind of distorted image or what society says I should be, but learning what is God's plan for me. And going through that healing, and it takes, healing is hard work, discipleship is hard work, conversion is hard work, and it's a daily thing. Nobody ever gets to the mount where they kind of sit there and gaze upon the world, you know.
Right.
It's always a work in, if you're honest, it's a work in progress every day. So.
And God's calling us to conversion. He's calling us to change, right? And sometimes that change is difficult. When I was asking you about the theology of the body earlier, you just rattled off some great things that the Pope brings out, like from the teaching on Genesis and the Gospel. But that destiny, that image of God that we're made in, and that really spoke to your heart, you know, about what we're called to be. What's God's plan, His divine plan? Could you talk about some of those elements again?
Sure. The one thing that I really just fell in love with in his work on theology of the body is his discussion on Genesis, when God creates Adam and Eve, and that just the discussion of masculinity and femininity, and learning there what it really means to be a woman, because I was so full of all these erroneous things of what it means to be a woman. I bought into what the society says, what the media says means that you're a woman if you look like this or you do this. But to go to that and to continually drink from that of what God says, what it means to be truly feminine, or for men to be truly masculine, and from that authentic life, how will I give myself in love? Not will I, but how will I give myself in love? We're meant to be a gift given in love, and to receive others as a gift. And so that just, I just absolutely love that particular aspect of when he's speaking of the creation of Adam and Eve in the garden.
You spoke to me earlier about, like, we are the result of a deliberate, you could say, choice of God. I mean, He, at the moment of conception, right, He creates the human soul. You're willed into existence directly by God.
Yes,
right?
we are.
He wants you to exist.
He does. There's no such thing really as an unplanned pregnancy, you know, unplanned for us because we don't know what we're doing, but for God, there's no such thing. God's not like, oh, what am I going to do now? You know, He knows exactly what He's doing, and everybody that's has ever been conceived is meant to be here and will never be recreated or recycled. I mean, just to even fathom that for a second, that nobody will ever be recreated or recycled from the beginning to the end of time. I mean, that is just monumental to even consider, that we're all destined to be here, and that we're alive right now in this moment, this crucial moment in history, to do something great for God. We have a divine plan.
Right. Unique, unrepeatable.
Unique, precious, and unrepeatable, completely.
What about the role of beauty? That comes up in your articles and things. How does that speak to you about the Church's teaching on beauty? And
it's really an amazing work, because we as women, we do have the gift of beauty, and that there's always a question deep in the heart of every woman of, am I beautiful? Am I beautiful? And we see that even in our daycare. We have princess dress up. Okay, so don't get between like 5-year-olds and princess dress up. You know what I'm saying? They'll just like mow you over. I'm sure you can relate.
I'm stuck on something for a moment, sister. I don't want to sound confused or offended here, but you say women have the gift of beauty.
A special gift of beauty.
Well, yeah, and
okay,
I'm not wanting anybody to think, you know.
That you're beautiful?
No, I don't want that. Where I'm going with this is.
All right.
That sounded a bit, I don't want to say chauvinistic or anything, but where's the gift of men lie then? Is it in handsomeness?
Men are warriors and soldiers.
Oh, all right.
Have you heard that before?
Yeah.
Because I feel like you might have talked about that. I don't know. Like that's just a rumor.
Have you watched the show before?
Maybe once.
God bless you, sister.
But you have a great quote from Fulton Sheen I like. Can you tell us that?
One of my favorite quotes is when he says that the beauty on the outside never penetrates from within, but the beauty from within permeates the body.
Right.
And I love that. And you see people, like they say Mother Teresa was so beautiful. So beautiful. Like she just radiated beauty.
You need to repeat that for the audience out there. That is, I've heard him speak to that effect. That is powerful. Say that again, please, sister.
So the beauty on the outside never penetrates within, but the beauty from within permeates the body.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Like an incense, or like the fragrant incense, it comes forth.
You said Jim Morrison from the Doors said that, or what great poet?
It was Eddie Vedder,
was
man.
It John Eddie Vedder, was it? Yeah. I mean, but that comes from Archbishop Fulton Sheen, not from our modern day musicians or actors or our rock stars out there, our Hollywood stars. That comes from someone who understands something because of their connection with God. They find that truth and put it in those profound words. That's powerful stuff.
It is. And
the culture, right, especially women are held up to these standards. The fashion mags you mentioned, Hollywood, it's like, okay, you got to look like this. If you don't, you're falling short.
Oh my gosh, it's an illusion. Yeah. Every image that we see on magazines, whether men's or women's magazines, is photoshopped. The average fashion model is 5'11", and she weighs 115 pounds, which means that her body mass index would put her at a point of severe starvation.
Wow.
And the average American woman is, for example, 5'6", and she weighs 155 pounds. So there's a huge disparity there, and plastic surgery is a $15 billion business. So what we're being told is that we have to look like Barbie dolls, first of all. But if we have enough plastic surgery, or we diet enough, we'll look like this. But it's an illusion, because only 11% of American women are genetically predisposed to be tall and thin. It's a complete and total illusion. Even the celebrities, I love it when celebrities say, "Oh, I saw myself at the supermarket. I don't look like that," you know, because it's true, and it's toxic. It's very, and it teaches women to hate themselves, to hate our bodies, to constantly. I read a statistic somewhere that said by the time a girl is 16, 80% of 16-year-olds hate what they look like. And that's toxic, and we don't have to live like that.
That's happening so much with young men too. You know, with guys thinking they have to have the washboard abs.
Yeah, like the 32-pack. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that sort of stuff. You know, and you know the men's magazines.
Are you tightening up there?
I think he's got the guns going.
You know, but I mean, I grew up in that too, living 5, 6 days a week in the weight room, you know, competing in powerlifting. I mean, I'd go in the weight room for 2-3 hours a day, 5, 6 days a week, and the weight room that I worked out in was catty corner from the church that I was at 1 hour a week.
Wow.
And I look back at that now and think, wow, isn't that a bizarre twist that I fell into? You know, guys checking out, a guy thinks his worth is based on his chest, his biceps, his abs. This whole approach, and one of the number one plastic surgery procedures for men is liposuction.
Dang,
that's almost the top one for guys now. Because of the same thing you're saying that they're throwing at women, men are slowly buying into that same lie as well.
What are some of the things you tell young women that their gift to the culture, the gift that God's endowed them with?
That we must live authentic beauty, because that is the gift that God gave us. So we can't go to either extreme of worshiping it or throwing it away. But as we allow our natural beauty, our attentiveness to the person, our the amazing ability to bear life, first of all in our spirits, and then maternally in our bodies, if that's the case, that's what God has planned for us. The gift of the attentiveness to the individual, of compassion, of kindness. Those are the things of nurturing. My favorite title for Our Lady is Our Lady Refuge of Sinners, is that women as a refuge today, that's healing for people, and that transforms people, and that's a great strength. The women are the heart, what we call the heart of the family, the heart of society, And in the closing speeches for the Vatican II, the closing of Vatican II, the Council Fathers speak of imploring women to bring peace to the earth. That's incredible to really even think of, and that's not going to come from us destroying ourselves or contracepting ourselves, or it will never ever come from that. It will only come from a true embrace and a true healing of who we are as women.
A capacity for the other, we could say that too.
Definitely a capacity.
Just upholding the dignity of the human person,
yes,
the individual.
Definitely.
And can you talk about how you live that out today, right? You work with young kids. It must be especially evident in your work.
It is in my work with the children at our daycare and at our school, to see where they're coming from and a lot of what they deal with, and also working with the women that come through the novitiate. About 20 women have come through in the last 7 years. And then also working with the young people when I go out and speak to youth groups and at conventions and things like that, to see that immense hunger that's there, that deep need and what people are really hungering for. And the truth is naturally attractive. It's beautiful. You don't have to try to sell it or anything like that. To speak the truth, it's challenging, but it's attractive. That's how Christ is.
Okay, well, we're going to take a short break. We'll be back with Sister Miriam James, so don't go away. Hi, welcome back to Life on the Rock. Doug Barry and myself here, we're joined by Sister Miriam James from Society of Our Lady of the Most Holy Trinity. Sister, you told me earlier today one thing that priest said to you that was a turning point was that maybe what you're looking for you will find in Jesus. What did that mean to you when you heard that?
It was something that he said, I think, pretty innocently. The priest, Father Pinto, that was talking to me one day, and
he was kind of tired and had more answers. Go to Jesus.
Just stop bothering me already. No. Oh no, he's very kind. And we were just, I don't know, we were talking about something, and I was probably speaking about I was going to go work in Portland at a media, or because in the media you have to start from the bottom up, and you have to work all the way up to the top, and maybe about some guy that I dated or something. And Father just looked at me and said, well, maybe what you're looking for you'll find in Jesus. And I cannot explain it other than it was like when you get a complex mathematical equation, you're like, oh, like I didn't get it before, but I get it. And for me, that was a moment of intense grace, and I felt like at that moment that my soul had been missing a piece, like a puzzle that was missing a piece. And I felt at that moment that Jesus came and he went into the gutter and he found that missing piece. And he picked it up and he put it in my soul and he made the picture complete. And I've known ever since that moment, I mean, that innocent moment in the office, I just was pierced to the core that God is calling me to become a sister, to become his bride. I knew it right then.
How much, a moment like that, how much is it necessary for the individual to be open to even listening to what is said there? Because a statement like that for some is, oh yeah, right, and they walk away from it. At that point, was your heart open enough to even listen to what he was saying, that you would be ready to see that equation, so to speak?
I think it was by then, because I had been worn out. I'd been worn out through my own sin and brokenness. I'd tried everything there was to try. I was coming off of another breakup from another man, and I was very, very broken. And I like that you mentioned about being able to listen, because I could never stand silence. When I was in college and high school, I always had to have the radio on or the TV on or music on. I mean, I love music, but I could never stand silence, because when it was silent, the darkness would come to the surface and I didn't want to deal with it. And so I could never hear anything. But at this mission in New Mexico, it's silent there. It's nothing. There's nothing. It's south of Albuquerque. It's beautiful out there, and it is dead silent. And so it's no coincidence that was in that, after I'd been there for a while, through that silence, that I could at least begin to hear just a little.
So you would do what I think a lot of us do, sedate yourself.
Exactly.
With distraction.
Because it's too painful to live in the truth.
And it's so easy today to do that. We have our cell phones or iPods, and we have surgical implants now. Well, we're getting there. Where we can just have 24/7 screens and music and anywhere, everywhere. And it takes a real effort to pull back from that, to listen to that. I call it the ticking of the clock, that tick, tick, which is in the background of the room, if you have one of those clocks. And you can have all the noise going on until you shut everything off and really stop. Then you can hear it, and that ticking never stops. Just like God constantly tapping on the heart. You know, you can write that down, keep that if you want.
I will.
Could you talk about...
I don't have a pen, man, sorry. That's beautiful though.
Could you talk about authentic love? I mean, is that what we're talking about? You know, finding that stillness to discover Jesus, to encounter that love. You know, society presents one version of love, one view of love, the romantic comedy, the intensity, the excitement. What's authentic love look like?
Well, the version of love that we're often presented with is, I will quote unquote love you while you're convenient, while you bring me pleasure, and while I don't have to suffer. But as soon as I have to suffer, or you become inconvenient, or you no longer bring me pleasure, then, well, I guess it's over and we don't, quote unquote, we're not in love anymore. And that's a mutual using of one another, that's lust. And that will never, ever, ever bring about the fullness of love. Authentic love is loving a person as they are for who they are. Not what they look like or what job they do, or just for who they are as a creation of God. And that love is self-sacrificial. That love comes it's in good times and in bad. It's suffering comes along with it, but a deep joy and a deep gift of self. It's authentic. It's free, total, faithful, and fruitful. Those are the marks of authentic love, and that's what we're really hungering for. But most of us don't want to have to go through the cross to live in that kind of love. So it's in a sense easier. It's really not. But the illusion is that it's easier to kind of live on the surface and just live in this world of pleasure. But that will never satisfy. No matter how many men or women you're with, no matter how much money you have, no matter how beautiful you are, it will never ever bring what we're truly looking for. We're looking for so much more.
And could you talk about, you know, finding Jesus, holding on to him? I mean, you know, a lot of us have had conversion experiences, and still after that point, though, it's like still a struggle. You still, you know, might be tempted or distracted.
Oh, yeah.
Can you talk about, like, today? How do you stay close to the Lord?
I stay close to the Lord, or at least try on my part. He's always close to me, but by being faithful to our prayer schedule. Like, we have a schedule, and when I'm faithful to that, when I'm faithful and attentive in my mind, when I'm open with him, when I'm honest with him, and I speak to him from my heart and say, well, here's what I'm dealing with, or because a lot of times we're afraid of our brokenness, we're afraid of our darkness, we're afraid of it, like we don't want to go there, but Jesus is not afraid of that. I mean, obviously, when you look at where he went, he's not afraid of anything. So he's not afraid of the things we struggle with or what we suffer with, or he's not afraid when we're upset. I heard somebody say, somebody was really struggling with the death of one of their children, and he was very angry at God but didn't want to admit it. And finally one of his friends said to him, you know, God's a big boy, he can handle your anger, you know? God's a big boy. And so when I go to him and I'm authentic, but when I start to, probably in any relationship, start to cut corners or stop, you know, pull away from communication, or there's something in my life, I don't want to talk to Jesus about it, you know, that's when I begin to struggle. And so for me, I know that conversion, I know that healing, it's cyclical, it's not linear. Holiness is not linear. We don't heal linearly where you just go through something once and that's it, you never see it again. You go through it in cycles, just like the seasons. And so sometimes you're brought back around to the same issue and you're like, I thought I dealt with this already. But Jesus just wants to heal us more on a deeper level. And so.
Well, I was going to say that you make me think of a good friend of mine who says that in his prayer life, the honesty, you mentioned honesty and sincerity before God. And I know I struggle, I have and still do struggle with just letting yourself go before him. And I think people watching or listening right now, if we all look at ourselves, how often do we just say to God, you know, as my friend says, his prayer is always, Lord, you know me. You know me.
Yeah.
You know where I'm weak, you know where I'm tired, you know where I fail all the time. And I just want to start by saying, here I am again. You know me, and here I am again. And it reminds me of that, because of what you say about the sincerity, the honesty of going to God. I'm broken, I'm hurt, I'm wounded, I'm scared, I'm damaged, I'm blind, I'm ignorant, I'm deaf, and here I am. And that kind of honesty. So I say that to my wife all the time.
And we're loved in that, though. It's not like we go to God and say, oh, I'm horrible, you know. But we just go and speak the truth, and that we're loved in that. He loves us.
And there's something, we all want that unconditional love, and we should know that's where it comes from. That's where it's at. It's in him.
And in the Catholic Church, we have these incredible ways to encounter God. Can you talk about that, the Eucharist and confession? How should people, like a young person watching, you know, how should they avail themselves to that?
There is nothing greater than the sacraments of reconciliation and the Eucharist, you know, of going to Jesus and you meet the merciful heart of Christ in confession, and he comes to love us there, and you know, nothing that we could ever say is going to make the priest pass out or anything like that. You know, I mean, we just go in there and we speak the truth to him, and all Jesus wants to do is he wants to love us and he wants to heal us, and that is so transformative. Going to confession often is, oh my gosh, there's no substitute for it. There's no substitute for it. And receiving Jesus in the Eucharist as often as we can, I would definitely avail. I mean, if you're afraid, you can go to the priest and say, I'm afraid, I haven't been in confession in a while. I mean, that's the thing, is you can go and be honest. You don't have to put on the show of like, oh, I'm such a good person. Go in there and just speak the truth and be set free. That's what Jesus doesn't mess around. You know, he's not here. He didn't come and die for us so we could be good people. You know, he suffered and died for us so we could be set free from our sin. That's the worst thing in the world today, is sin, not suffering. Right. So it's indispensable. And
I thought it was a bad economy.
Well, that's just one of them. Just trying to get the priorities.
You mentioned adoration too. Is that part of your schedule?
It is. We have daily adoration, daily time for our community to come together and adore Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament.
Right. So it'd be one of those times you speak to the Lord. And
definitely.
How about the Rosary?
We pray the Rosary every day, many rosaries every day, and that's indispensable. And it's really, I heard someone say, one of the priests say one time, it's like when we pray the Rosary, it's like holding the hand of our mother. And I often, you know, pray the Rosary, and not just in formal times, but I try to pray it often because I need her with me. I mean, she talked about the beautiful woman. She is all beautiful. I mean, John Paul II wrote that in the beginning of Theology of the Body. His book is dedicated to her, to Mary, who is all beautiful. She is the beautiful one, and so I must go to her. I ask her every day, every morning, I ask her, teach me what it means to be a woman. Teach me what it means to be a mother. I don't know. I need to know. And so I go and ask her. And since we're talking about Bishop Fulton Sheen, he had another saying that the sin and the Rosary cannot coexist. After a while, one will go. So after a while, either sin goes or the Rosary goes, but they cannot coexist. And so as you grasp onto the Rosary, and if you can only pray one Hail Mary, and you mean it with all your heart, Our Lady comes. It's not this multiplication of prayers that's most important. It's what's in here, and that you can't fake that. And God knows that. You know.
Can you talk about, in your conversion story, you're raised in a good Catholic home, taught the faith, but you said it hadn't dropped to your heart.
Yeah.
And I know one of the big themes in your story is speaking your truth and telling people you can trust. Can you talk about that process and speaking the truth and dropping to the heart? That knowledge of God.
The knowledge. I have a very good friend who says that, she said, every time you speak your truth, no matter how ugly it seems to you or how shabby, every time you speak the truth, you speak it out loud, it sets you free. Every single time. And so as we do that, as we allow the knowledge that we have here to come and meld with our heart of the essence of who we are, that is really the process of conversion. It's the balance of the two. We can have all the head knowledge you want in the world, and education is very important, and intellectual knowledge is very important. And if I can know that, you know, the Eucharist is the true body, blood, soul, and divinity of Christ, I can know that. But if I don't allow Jesus to become, like Pope Benedict says, to have a living encounter with him, to have an encounter with the living Christ who's alive, and that he wants to meet me here, conversion's going to be hard to come by. And so this allowing of, you know, it's kind of like, I guess I oftentimes see myself as somebody with my fist kind of clenched, and you can't hold anything when your fists are clenched, but Jesus comes and it's like he massages your heart, and so your hand's open to receive, because in the end we're all receivers, all of us. All we can do is receive.
Yeah. And our culture can do such a number on us. I know we spoke about that before, but the cult of celebrity, the illusions. We have a couple minutes left. I know we were speaking about a big Hollywood star that's like denigrating marriage now and stuff. Can you talk about that message that's constantly given to our young people?
The average teenager sees 20,000 TV commercials a year, and so we're chock full of messages and of what society says, you know, is happiness or this or that. But it's amazing how even celebrities, I feel like these are talking points in many ways, because their own lives betray that reality. And so we have to go within ourselves to what we know is true. Intrinsically, we know the value of marriage, and we know the yearning for authentic love, and we know that, like John Paul II says, that even if love requires sacrifice, we know it's worth it. It's beautiful and it's noble. And I think we also have to be careful what we allow into our minds, Because our minds are like computers, and so we have to be very, I mean, I'm an adult, so technically speaking, I could see any movie I wanted, but I don't for many reasons, because trash in, it's gonna, you can say I don't listen to the lyrics or whatever, but you got to be very careful what you allow in here.
It forms and shapes us.
Definitely.
And the good news, though, is that we'll find what we're looking for. What our deepest longings of our heart are found in Jesus Christ.
They are.
Maybe that's the message tonight. You know,
and that we're loved. Yeah,
we are loved. That He heals us and He comes to us. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so
for
much,
joining us. It's been great
it's been awesome to be here.
The Lord be with you.
And also with you.
May our Heavenly Father shine His face upon you. May He give you His peace. May He fill you with the true knowledge of Himself, that you may love Him and know Him in a deeper way. May Almighty God bless you, the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. We'll see you next week.